They called Katrina a natural disaster. Stop lying. Katrina was state violence. I watched the documentary that Spike Lee put out, and it just further solidified what I believe. It wasn't the water that killed New Orleanians. It was George W. Bush. It was FEMA. It was the cops. It was the white residents in Algiers Point with rifles in hand. And America let it happen. When the levees broke, the storm was already gone. That wasn't God, that was man. The Army Corps of Engineers cut corners, they underfunded. They ignored warnings. 80% of New Orleans went under because they built walls that were never meant to hold. Then came the waiting. Oh my gosh. Thousands of people were stranded in the SuperDome, sitting in sewage, babies crying with no water, with no sustenance. Elders were dying in their wheelchairs. CNN was there. Fox News was there. Everybody was filming it. And still, George Bush stayed on vacation for 2 days after he received word of the aftermath. And when he showed up on TV, he had his sleeves rolled up, feigning relatability and compassion, all while he's sitting there praising the FEMA director. For what? Allowing people to drown? That's what you get a round of applause for? You got bodies on your hands. In Algiers Point, that wasn't chaos. That was white vigilantes, residents themselves, setting up barricades and hunting Black men. They bragged, anything darker than a paper bag, we shoot. And the New Orleans Police Department, instead of stopping them, which would have been the right thing to do, right? They turned a blind eye. People survived the flood only to be executed in their own neighborhood. FEMA didn't just fail, it blocked help. Truckloads of water and supplies were turned away at checkpoints. Doctors and volunteers were barred from entering. Insurance companies refused to pay claims. And when the water finally receded, the government bulldozed public housing instead of reopening it. They fired thousands of Black teachers. They replaced schools with charters. They erased whole communities under the cover of recovery. That wasn't incompetence, that was policy. A cleansing of the city, while the country pretended that this was all just some sort of tragic mismanagement. So when Kanye stood on that telethon and said George Bush doesn't care about Black people, people laughed. We laughed. We didn't know. I didn't know. But those words were the rawest truth spoken in that moment. It wasn't a mistake. It was neglect by design. Katrina wasn't the storm. Katrina was the government showing you exactly how disposable Black lives are in America. Spike's documentary doesn't just tell the story. It throws it back in our faces. George Bush went back to his ranch. Michael Brown resigned quietly. Only one of the white residents that hunted Black men in Algiers saw a courtroom. And the people of New Orleans were left to bury their dead and move on like nothing happened. Katrina wasn't an act of God. It was an act of America. And the receipts still stink of blood and water. I am so sorry, y'all.